Hi, welcome to Going Primitive. My name's Jeremy. I'll be your host. Got a lot to talk about. A lot of updates here. I'm out where I was going to try to do like a little hobbit hole. A little stone circle marking about where the size of the inner part of the mound for my house. Except I've done a little bit of exploring also, and I got some bad news for that. Down inside this hole, and we'll get some of the dry black dirt back out. I'm down into the clay, way down here. You can see some of the red rock, sandstone. Sandstone, and is part of the reason why I didn't see any sandstone rising up through this ground where I was going to build. I was hoping I would have ran across like a small patch of limestone, which would have been perfect. I'd be able to compress the clay dirt down, and I would have a reasonable expectation for the house to work. Unfortunately, the ground is not going to cooperate. Right here is the clay dirt. It is just full of extremely low-grade sandstone. I did a few tests just to see if I could pull it off, and let's see if we can't get you to zoom. Come on. I think you could see it. Bring her a little closer here. It's full of the rock and it is full of sand. The topsoil, which is this pile here, it's also full of sand. If I was to try to compress it down the water table here, which is known to be high, when it rains, it gets nice and soggy out here. It will push up on that compressed ground, and eventually it's just going to push itself all the way up inside the house. So I go from having a floor and then a living space to having probably a solid hill. Excuse me. I could try not to compress it and just put some stones down, but every time it rains, it's going to build up moisture inside, and that's just going to be a mold problem. So I'm going to use these stones for my planters, my above ground planters I was going to do for my gardening. And I will do a how-to and show how I'm doing that on a different video. This one's a little different on that. Anyways, I've decided if I can't go under the ground, I'll bring nature under me. And that's where some of the video game stuff that I remember seeing kind of comes into play. Fallout 4, you could build towers and such. Some of the Minecraft builds that I've seen on YouTube where they're doing like the steampunk cities and such, they got towers going and this and that, and it's all this amazing looking stuff that I didn't come up with. These guys are definitely, they are definitely better than I am at it. And I always try to give props where props is due on that. A quick side note. The blackberries are starting to change color. I'm going to have some nice blackberries here shortly. Looks like I'm going to have to learn to love blackberries, or, learn how to make blackberry wine. Anyways, so I spent some time thinking about the house, how to build, and I've looked at what other people have done. A lot of people will just bring in sheds, or they bring in a camper, much like I have, as my temporary base. But they'll put in the sheds, the camper, and some of them are close enough to the power lines where it's relatively easy for them to get some power to their place, and that's it. If they don't, there's a few of them that try to run a generator and their air conditioning and all that and watch their TV. But I got 10.5 acre size home. I live here. on the prairie. I don't want to squirrel myself away inside a house. I want to be out and about, living with the nature, living with what I have. So I did go buy some paper and some crayons so that I can draw some plans up, draw some interesting pictures that maybe could help relay what I'm trying to go for, and maybe help with the build-alongs, because I do plan on doing build-alongs, showing people how I've done it, things like that. Buddy dropped off 2 55-gallon drums of water, just water. So I put this covering over it to keep the bugs out, and I've been using it to bathe and wash my dishes and that kind of thing. I don't climb in the bucket. I get the water out, heat it up, and then I bathe. It's might cheaper to do it that way than it is for the 20 cents a gallon of water from the little water place in town. Well, it's 25 cents unless you put in $1, and then you can get 5 gallons. So anyways, I'm heading up to my road here, a little access road. It is about to get really slick because, well, you can't really see it, but that's some pretty dark clouds. Sometime late tonight it's supposed to rain. I try to make it to my house as much as possible. There's one person who doesn't want to park the car at their house, so they park at the end of the access road, which may or may not cause some problems in their case. Right now I can still get in and out, so I try to just let people be. That's a key thing out here, is let people be. But anyways, we're talking about my house. I'm thinking with that tower I can do a 2-story tower, leave enough space to where the grass can grow underneath it, and utilize as much space as possible, because with the water table, and you can see through this road, these rocks used to be on the bedrock. Water table, when it rains, water table comes in further up the hills. We're not at the highest point. We're actually, the hills way back there are even higher. So eventually the water pressure from them even pushes on the water here, and it tries to just flow out and flow downhill. As it does that, it builds up a lot of pressure, and it pushes rocks up off of the bedrock. It breaks it off, pushes it up. I'm going to do a quick spin here. Try to stay in front of my property. I'm not a big fan of filming other people's property, so at least not without their permission and them being there. So, anyways, with those rocks coming up out of the ground like that, that's where I've been getting a lot of my freestones. A lot of the rocks I've been collecting for building. If I do the tower, I don't have to worry about that, because the mass of the tower and the legs, going through the legs, so the weight of the tower, I should say, pushing down on the legs, should supersede the hydraulic pressure. So it shouldn't rise, it shouldn't move, it shouldn't anything. It'll just be a house on stilts, but it's going to be a tower. I'm going to put a windmill on it, so it's a windmill tower, and all kinds of different things going on with it. Again, trying to play with a lot of those video game ideas that I've seen, that I've always been like, that's so cool. Even though some of them may have been like a part of a cutscene and it was only a couple of seconds, I remember those fondly, because I always was interested in those ideas. Don't know if you guys are or not. Hopefully I can get a following going with these videos of people who are also interested in this kind of stuff. So if you want to try to classify what I'm doing, I'm living off-grid. I'm really not going to use a whole lot of electricity. I do use electricity right now through my car to recharge my cell phone, so I can make more videos. Get it up a little more here. make more videos. Do plan on getting like an electric bike or build one. That would be even better. Just stick with the do-it-yourself kind of thing. Build an electric bike that, you know, you can pedal, you can do your own thing. That would make it easier for me to get back and forth to work and save a lot of money. Approximately $80 a month in gas. Well, $80 a month in gas is quite decent for me. And considering that like a deep cycle battery, marine battery even, is about $80, that's 1 month and I'm good to go. Just on the battery. And they should last me a pretty decent amount of time. We will experiment and see if that works though. I have no problem calling out those experiments, such as this, such as, you know, what I was trying to do with the Hobbit hole. I have no problem calling those out when they don't work. Because ultimately I'm here to, you know, live in my environment, create some content for people to enjoy, and maybe bring get people thinking and getting their own ideas and trying to do their own thing. Now, I believe later on this week I'll start doing the planters, and I'll do a how-to build on that, on the way I'm doing it. Will it work? Don't know, but I'm going to give it a shot. And I got some potatoes, and I could probably transplant something else. Probably like, I would say some blackberries, but I'm good on blackberries this year. I got a few acres of them. So, as I was saying, I want to get that house designed, drawn out. Want 2 separate living areas on it. One being like an open kitchen, open type house, where when it's nice out, which it won't be tonight, but it's nice right now. When it is nice out, I can sleep in it. I can do my cooking and enjoy the environment. When it's cold or it's really stormy, raining too hard, you know, I can live in like, or sleep in the more warmer part, the part of it that's designed to be more resistant against the weather. This, I think, would make it a little easier. I can live a little bit more within the seasons, and it might make it a little easier for you know, me to stay in touch with my environment. It being on a platform also will help keep prairie grass growing underneath it. I minimize my footprint on there, but and I'm hoping I can get this right on it, is I also want to look at the materials going in and see if I can't do everything I can to make it to where I'm not exceeding their growth rate. Because if I get a board where I've used enough to make a whole tree of wood, which I will be, I need that to last approximately the same amount of time it would take to grow that, if not more than, and I would prefer more than. Primitive people 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, people 200 years ago in America, they were up their eyeballs in trees. To them, the land was free and open, and you can just take anything, it's going to be there tomorrow. We've seen this time and time again, that the resources do become a little bit more limited. So, me being a modern person, trying to live a little bit more primitive or a simpler life, I got to look at it and think a little bit and try to come up with ways to where I'm not as damaging to the environment. There's a lot more people, a lot less resources, and we definitely owe Mother Nature our best shot at being a little more conscientious about it. In other news, well, I forgot. Anyways, guys, I'm going to get off. Probably later on I'll remember what I was just about to say. So remember, we're all human beings. We're all members of the human race, and we should treat each other accordingly. Have a good night.